Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton. Luncha!
Good evening, Whiskey Brothers, Whiskey Sisters, and Whiskey Friends, and welcome to episode 1 of Kindred Scotch Spirits Whiskey Review. I'm Dolph. I'm your host tonight, and I'm joined by this fella right here, and he is Glen Grant, global brand ambassador Robin Cooper. A fantastic individual, and he's helped me out many times in the past. And, well, with Alberta Scotch Society, we did a tasting last year, a very well-attended tasting, and he supplied a lot of the booze, so it was fantastic. Thank you, Robin. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thank you. By the way, that little jingle at the beginning is absolutely fantastic. I love it.
You like that? I do.
I'm going to learn the words to it. Sing it in the shower.
Friend Adam Brown did that for me, so and I like hearing it. And for the rest of the night, I keep saying "sluncha." It feels like I should throw some plates on the ground. Sluncha. Break the Glencairns. So what I'd like to do. Oh, yours is a little bit. I wouldn't want to break that. We're going to do this just like I do the Canadian whiskey journey. I'm going to throw some information about the distillery and put some pictures up. If during the pictures you have some information to shout out, Robin, just go right ahead. It'll be the picture. We'll be hidden a little bit. And then we're going to talk about this bottle right here. Glen Grant's 15-year-old batch strength, non-chill filtered, no colored, pure as can be. And I'm really happy to be drinking this tonight. So, the launch of this was November 15th. It's available in Canada now, and it's a little bit hard to come by. Enough. We'll talk about it. We'll do the tasting. So let's give the information now. Let's throw some pictures up, and that's what it looks like with better pictures than mine. But we're going to start with this, and that's where it is on the map, and then we're going to go a little bit closer in, and there we go. And let's just do the rest. Distillery front. So Glen Grant Distillery, founded 1840 in Ross Speyside. You can see up here, it's in Speyside, definitely. Previously owned by Chivas Brothers and well known because they're in the Chivas blend. Glen Grant was purchased by Campari Group December 2005. And I'll ask you, it's still going into the blend, is it not there, Robin?
But at this stage, I don't think so, Dolph. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I think they've cycled through Glen Grant. I'd have thought by now.
Okay.
Because it was 2006 when the keys were handed over to Campari.
Oh, okay.
So
and then, when there's takeovers like that, I always wondered if you're still bound to a blend. Let's say you're bound to a blend previously. You're bought out. Do they still have to supply the blend for another 2-3 years? I wonder things like that. I'm sure it does happen, but okay. So it used to go in. It might not go in there anymore. And what really strikes me about this distillery is it's bloody beautiful. Like you look at this and you look at the grounds, and you have been there a couple times, right?
Oh, many times.
It is absolutely beautiful.
I've been on the brand, gosh. Shortly after, actually, it was acquired by Campari. So going back to, about 2000, I think I started on the brand about 2008, and the distillery was sold in 2006.
Okay.
So it was a couple of years later. But yeah, no, you're quite right. I mean, it's a beautiful distillery. I mean, it is Italian owned. We serve probably the best coffee in Speyside, if you like a coffee. But in addition to the distillery, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, but it has about 27 acres of beautiful Victorian gardens, with the backburn, the water source flowing through it, and that's one of the that water starts as from about 5 natural springs up in the hills behind that where that photograph was taken. And of course, that water flows down into sort of a larger sort of stream, and it sort of cascades down the mountains. And so you have this kind of incredible sort of creek right up into like a ravine
Yeah.
Lots of sort of New Zealand sort of ferns and what have you. Of course, Major James Grant brought a lot of exotic plants and propagated them into the garden, but lots of rock pools and, but the Major James Grant built a safe into the rock.
Okay.
And so when guests arrived, he'd have the key, and of course he would invite his guests to a dram, one of his special drams, and that's a tradition that we still continue today. Dennis Malcolm, our master distiller, will take VIPs, friends, people close to the distillery up there for a dram, and you're surrounded by this glorious Mother Nature. It's just beautiful.
And this is the gentleman right here you're talking about, right?
That is Dennis. That's Dennis.
Man.
And he's actually drawing a sample of the Dennis Malcolm 60th anniversary edition, which we launched this year.
Nice.
We actually launched it officially in London in October, early October, with Rolls-Royce, because we have a kind of a link with Rolls-Royce that goes way, way back to the Major, because he was the only person north of Glasgow to own a motor car, and it happened to be a Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. So we made that connection with Rolls-Royce, and they said, look, we would be absolutely privileged to launch this great craftsman, because, Dennis has been, finely tuning the Glen Grant spirit like a Rolls-Royce engine. So we got that kind of connection as well. So that's the cask. It's a Spanish Oloroso sherry butt. Nice. It was filled in October the 24th, 1960. And it was taken out of cask in September. So it's closer to 61 years old. But, we bottled, I think, 360 bottles of that.
Just a little bit older than us. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit older than us.
A small bit older than us. There's a story I like, and I don't know if you played up or it's played up very much, but they were smugglers, illegal distillers at one point that decided to go legit and they bought the license. Do they play up that somewhere? Because that's something that when you talked about a little cavern and the lock to the cavern, it feels like a smuggler's cove type thing to me, right?
Yeah, I can see where you could make that kind of connection, Dolph. I mean, the distillery was actually founded by two brothers, John and James. And legend has it they came from Glenlivet. Mm. Okay. I don't think they owned Glenlivet. They may have worked at Glenlivet or lived in one of the little cottages.
Yeah.
But they, when they got into the business, they were owners of Aberlour Distillery, just down the road.
Which I love.
From where we are. And same with Glenlivet. And nice whiskey. And they then moved a little bit further up the river and found their own glen. Okay. So the glen would be the water source. Okay, because glen means valley, but also, in distilling language, it means water source. Yeah. And of course, we actually have three sources of water in Grant. We have the hills that supply the water
for distilling,
the mashing, etc.
Yep.
We also use another water from another spring on the grounds of the distillery for reduction, and then we use water from the River Spey to cool the condensers. Right. But then that water has to be reduced. So we take the water out of the river at river temperature. It goes into the condensers to convert the vapor into spirit. And of course, it's cold, but then it heats up. But then before we put it back into the river, we have to make sure that the temperature comes down to river temperature.
Right, so you're not killing or making bacteria. Let's see if I have a picture of the condenser if we have. So we've got the fermenters and the washbacks. We've got your stills. See those slender neck stills, the spirit stave. The tasting room looks fantastic. Is that a tasting room or is it kind of a blending room?
I'm trying to think where that is. That is, I think that's an old photo, Dolph. I'm thinking that might be where there was a few changes made Dennis made a few changes in the early years of this phase of the distillery. So a few things were switched around. So I'm not sure, but some of the photos that you did pull up are worth mentioning. Some of them, I think, one of them was the wooden fermenters.
Right there.
Right. So we're if you look around the landscape of Speyside, there's some very large distilleries, and then there's some very small distilleries. We're kind of somewhere in the middle, but our production is quite small when you compare us with some of the big boys.
Yeah.
So we are still able to use wooden fermenters, and those fermenters are made from Oregon pine. Of course, being made of wood, you'll have all the little nooks and crannies where some of the old yeast and some of the localized bacteria can hang out.
And how you clean them is different as well, because you don't steam them. You clean them, but they're not steamed and disinfected like.
No, they're not. Well, we steam them, but we don't disinfect. You can't disinfect them.
Right. You can't
clinically clean them.
Right.
So we steam clean them for about 48 hours, but some of that sort of residual sort of localized bacteria and yeast, and some of it will still be alive, will play its part in a kind of almost like a secondary fermentation.
Yeah.
Which I hear
itself to the taste, the flavor.
I hear people say, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference," and typically those people will say that come from distilleries that use stainless steel these days. Yeah. So it depends who's doing paying for your bidding.
Yes, I get that. Well, I'm going to stick with it, and I like this. I like the looks of it, and I'm an aesthetic guy, so I go for the looks, and the stills are beautiful stills, and everyone likes looking at stills. I don't know why, but they are beautiful, and I like them. And the spirit safe I found odd. I don't know if I've seen them on. Well, it's number 1 and number 2. That's it, because it was at right angles to each other. It just seemed different to me. I haven't seen that kind of setup before. But yeah, this tasting room, I wanted to be in this place, so it's a little bit depressing that it's not like that anymore, because it seems like a place I'd like to spend a couple hours just sitting.
Well, we do have a new one, a visitor center with a tasting room, which is everything's available there. The lighting's very nice, particular because obviously you want to see the color of the liquid, and it's also an old coach house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's where they keep the horses. Back in the old days, Major James Grant. Like I said, he had he was the only person to have a car, but everything else was by horse. So that's where the horses were kept, and so that's been converted into the current sort of visitor center, tasting room. I mean, you can go in there and buy a bottle. That's it there. Yeah. So you can see that's sort of, we call it the gables.
Yeah, I can see that.
Sort of design of it, but yeah, that's where they would keep the horses.
It's pretty, and
yeah,
they're kind of
he's
innovators.
In the ceiling, they would keep the hay there. That they'd be hay lofts.
I was going to say he's an innovator because they're proud of the fact that they were the first to have electricity as well. The first distillery.
Yes.
Was it the first in Speyside or the first in Scotland to have?
We were, as legend has it, we were the first production or fabrication facility, production facility in the north of Scotland that had electric lighting. So there was
and you can see how old they are as well. It's in Canada, we don't have anything. Well, no, we do have quite a few older distilleries when we think of Wiser's and what we have back east, and one in Montreal in particular, which is kind of cool. But we don't think in terms of that old usually, where they're proud of the fact that they're the first to get electric light. Just to put yourself in that frame of mind is kind of cool. I like that. But yeah, let's start talking about the whiskey, because was there something else you wanted to talk about the distillery before I?
No, let's go through the whiskey, Dolph. Absolutely.
Let's do it, because those tall, slender stills make some nice, light, malty whiskey. I like it a lot. And so I did two. I did one with water, just to get it down to about 40, maybe 35% if I measured it properly. And the other one kept it at cask strength. I'm a cask strength lover, Robin, and I like single cask. Cask strength is my favorite. But when we can get cask strength, this is fantastic. And it's the mouthfeel that really drives it home for me. I like powerful flavors, but I like the mouthfeel. But the nose with the water does change. So I don't know if you have yours with water at all and you want to talk about it either way. I'm not going to say one and then the other. I'm just on the nose. I get floral and tons of fruit. Fruit. Orange, apple, honeydew. I can't tell if it's more caramel or honey though for sweetness. I'm gonna ask you what you think, because I usually go between caramel and honey and butterscotch, but I think honey.
Just to correct you, Dolph, I think you said it was cask strength. It's actually batch
strength. Sorry, 50%. There we go. Okay,
50% batch.
Let's make that clear. It's that.
Yes, and what batch strength means, and that's the batch that we prefer. I mean, when I say we, our master distiller Dennis Malcolm,
that's what he likes.
He believes that this strength it's at is very best.
Okay.
It's very best, and it also probably says on the carton there it's the first edition.
It does, right on there.
So
if we can go.
So right now, we're using we're tapping into 15 batches of first fill ex bourbon. So this is Glen Grant aged in first fill ex bourbon for plus 15 years and bottled at its optimum strength.
And let's talk about the casks as well. Are they all dunnage?
So we're about something like 92% of our barrels age in stone dunnage warehouses.
And fairly close to where you are? Yes.
So we have a vaulted warehouse on the property, which is 3 stories. That was a photo of it.
Okay.
It was built in about 1850.
I'll go back.
Yeah. Okay. It was called warehouse number 4, and now it's called warehouse number 5. So it went from 4 to 5. And then we have other stone dunnage warehouses a little bit closer to the river. So if you know the distillery, you walk out of the distillery, there's a wee roundabout, and then you take the roundabout. I think we're going south to the river. You pass McKessick Park, which is the Rothes Football Club ground.
Okay.
McKessick, by the way, was the Grant's Major James Grant's grandson. But
okay,
Major James Grant, yeah. And a little bit further down are quite a few of most of our stone dunnage warehouses.
And no, it's lovely. Do you know offhand the difference between the 15 and the batch strength then? If you were going to say there was a major difference, flavor palate or nose or finish, apart from the creamy feeling because it's non-chill filtered.
You mean the 16 years old?
Is it 16? Okay. I'm going by memory. And I had a lot to
You
drink.
mean the 16 we used to bottle and ship to Canada and the US?
Yes.
This stuff?
Which we had at our tasting. Yes. So that we had at our tasting in November last year. So could you think
this
of
is different? This is different. Yeah.
Okay.
So it might be 1 year older than the 15 years old, but that is first and refill bourbon and Oloroso sherry.
Okay.
And the 16 years old had the 16 years old had quite a higher sherry content. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was quite high. And, we couldn't really sustain that. We didn't really have the stocks to sustain it because, when Campari bought Glen Grant back in 2006, most of the liquid was 5 years old and younger. Because a lot of 5 years old was sold in Italy. Italy was, believe it or not, Dolph, Italy was the first market outside the the British Isles to embrace single malt Scotch whisky, and it was
Really?
5 years old.
Before France, before any. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a guy called Armando Giovanetti, who was a big guy in the Italian liquor business. He was the Aperol distributor in Italy.
Okay.
And he had a big business, and he basically built the brand up in Italy. But the guy who built it up, he was the guy that went on to a distillery that nobody had heard of, to do his next, take on his next big challenge. And that distillery had a lot of old stock. And he built that brand into being a powerhouse, and that brand's Macallan, basically.
Nice. Okay.
Everything's
linked.
He'd done a big job with Glen Grant was the biggest single malt
at that time
Scotch whisky in the world.
Yeah.
But
and
I mean, in the world,
Glen Grant is the biggest selling Scotch right now in Italy. It
may
single malt.
It may still be. So there's a section of the Italian society that who grew up in the 70s and 80s, 90s when it really hit, and they, Glen Grant was seen as sophisticated. They would drink it as a post aperitivo. I don't think I've got the right word.
Digestif and
digestif, yes. I mean, probably before, during, and after. I don't really know. I mean, in a lot of the Latin countries, discotecas, tall glasses with ice and on the rocks. I mean, it's just a different way of imbibing it. I mean, maybe that, I had spent a little bit of time in Spain, and they were drinking Scotch that way. So,
okay. And the highballs, which they're doing in Japan, made very popular. And last summer for the first time I was doing that. So highball and just
in Japan or
in Japan. I wasn't in Japan. It's just I read
okay. You just
Dom Roscoe and us. We did the whiskey book club with Dom. He did a book on whiskey Japan, and we reviewed it. So he was talking about I started drinking my whiskey that way, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but I do. So I'm not as much of a purist, I guess, as I think.
There's something really great about a highball, actually, Dolph, and just to plug Glen Grant. I mean, Glen Grant's got that really fruity nose that you pointed out, so it does make a good highball because you still get that lovely malty, fruity aroma. But I was at this. We did this event partnership with Modern Luxury in Dallas, and we had this dinner at this lovely restaurant, and they were all very sort of media savvy people, but they'd asked, for a Glen Grant cocktail, and we were kind of like scratching our heads because, we don't have a cocktail, recipe book, we don't have a cocktail sort of strategy, and so we thought, we did have one, but the ingredients are quite complicated. So we thought, well, just do the highball. And some of the people were worried, is it just a bit too simplistic? That's just good. Let's just do it. Because if the Japanese, like it, and they sell it and they serve it in trendy bars in San Francisco, New York, and Edmonton, etc. Why not do it? And so we did it. And so some of these people say, "Oh, that's really good. Actually, I really like that." It was like, wow,
And simple to do, easy to do. And I like that it changes color as well. So I do, because I don't want the clear in the bottle. I want it all nice and hazy. And that gives you a little bit to talk about too. When it's I like that. It's good. So did I miss something on the nose? I did say fruit, but I'm more of an orange than I think on the box it said, pears and apricot. I'm more orange for me than that.
Yeah, I mean, like orange.
I'm going apple too.
Like it's not the orange you'd get, in some of the older wild turkeys. You get that real sort of
no,
or chocolate orangey, but apricot, tangerine is definitely there.
Okay. If I was going to be really specific, I would say blood orange is what I'm smelling, because I love blood oranges from Spain, and that's kind of what I'm getting. No, which is not as strong of an orange scent. It's orange, but a little tart with it as a smell.
Well,
So I like it.
There's definitely a sort of marmalade.
Sure, let's go for that. Okay, but and here as well, they say toffee, but I'm thinking more honey than toffee once I put water in it. So I need your opinion on that. Do you think more?
Well, I can go and get some water, but I mean, I'm taking small sips. But
that's okay.
And if this has been open for in the glass for a little while.
Yeah, I'm hitting an hour. We've been on for 25, and I poured this a half an hour before. So.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking honey for me.
So I like to sort of the expression barley sugar.
Okay. Yeah, that's sweetness.
That, you get sort of the caramel, the sort of nutty toastiness. It's. That's the thing, Glen Grant, and you get it a lot of malt whiskies, but you definitely get it in the DNA of Glen. So, you were saying earlier that the cask strength whiskies,
yep.
And that as we all know, there's many whiskies that are being aged in other barrels that are not traditional Scotch whiskey barrels, so the flavor might take a different sort of turn.
Yep.
And you may lose some of those subtle aromas. I don't know.
I'm loving it. I like it. I find this, and this is not a derogatory statement. It's supposed to be supportive. I like the simplicity of it. It is. It's in.
Like a pure.
It's more pure in the fact that it's first fill bourbon, which I like, and it's not finished with anything else. And I love my finishes, I do, but I like the fact that this is not. I like that it's at 50%. I like that the packaging seems very, I don't want to say plain, but it's to the point, and you have the information that you need on it, and it's really not gussied up. It's not made to be. It's attractive with colors. It stands out, but there's a simplicity to it that I really like. So. I'm drawn to the simplicity. I'm drawn to the malty fruitiness that's not over the top something else. It's not finished in a sweet white wine barrel.
They used to call it aced.
It's just, yeah.
You remember that you never hear that expression much.
Not anymore. No.
Aced, acing.
So, it's kind of, they're trying to step away from the derogatory term that it's finished, that you're hiding something. So there's nothing to hide. This is pure. It's up front. You get it. And this is what you get. And I do enjoy it. But how about on the palate, Robin?
Well, anything that's non-chill filtered.
Nice mouthfeel.
You're always going to get that more of a viscous, syrupy, creamier, mouthfeel.
Yep.
And it really coats the palate. It lingers. It's kind of chewy.
I think so. And I'll stick with the sweet malt, but there's the smallest amount of sweet, and the honey's not there on the palate. It was more on the nose, so the sweetness is there. Malt, it's malty. It's a traditional kind of malty flavor that you're looking for. That I'm looking for. The hint of vanilla, because it's first fill,
yes,
but there's not as much vanilla as I was expecting for some reason. I thought it was going to be more vanilla-like, and it has a hint, so it's complementing it. It's not forefront.
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, there's also, that vanilla. There's a bit of spice. It's a bit of a slight spice to it, and it. I kind of sometimes jokingly compare it. Sometimes I've said it's the tiramisu of the range, because it's, you've got that creamy level, you've got that toffee, that vanilla sponge, you've got the fruity layers, and then you've got the kind of coffee sort of spice at the bottom. But I'm glad you said spice. Those layers.
because, and it's not heat, it's spice, because my watered down still has the spice to it. It's not the heat that people will mistake spice. And not a ton of wood influence. It's not overly oaked whatsoever. There's just a hint of oak, hint of vanilla. So I don't want to call this a delicate whiskey. It's not. It's got substance to it, and it's just more fruity. And I think, yeah, maybe I will try this with a little bit of water. What I mean, but as a highball in a bit, just to see. No, anyway. And the finish, I go from sweet to heat, but it's not this heat. It's the spice. So sweet to a small amount of spice on the finish.
Well, I don't get, despite the fact it's 50% ABV 100 proof, it still has that delicacy. As my old mentor and boss, Anthony Burnett, would say, it goes down singing hymns, and hers.
Okay. It's hers.
But it has that kind of gentleness, but it delivers as a bigger whiskey. It's kind of subtle. It's it's not kind of in your face so much.
And when we say spices, I'm thinking like the baking spices, a little bit.
Yes.
The heat at the end's like a cinnamon or a slight clove or a little bit of nutmeg. That's the spice I'm talking about at the end. Yeah. And I find that lingers. And I had apple on the nose, and I don't know. Do you still get apple on the palate?
Well, you will get apple in sort of with Glen Grants, younger Glen Grants. I mean, the 12 years old here.
You get more apple on that.
You'll get more apple on this, the 10 years old, which we do in some of the international markets.
Excellent. Okay.
This is the 15 is a step up from the 12, but the 12 is an amazing baseline. And of course, it's more readily available.
We're going to do a
sherry and sherry. This first fill, a little bit of first fill ex bourbon, refill in 12 sherry. Proofs a little bit low, 86.
It's not a highball glass; it's a rocks glass. I know, but
you're making your highball right now.
I'm doing my highball now.
Oh, come on! So that the secret of a good highball, Dolph, is the secret of a good highball.
I'm listening.
You've just butchered it, by the way, but it's a tall glass.
I know. I said it wasn't tall. I know.
A tall glass.
Yes.
Not a short, fat, round one. Tall glass. And you've got to get the ice right. That's very important. You've got to have good ice. Okay.
Like the little balls.
Well, if the ice maker makes them into balls or squares or triangles or whatever you want, stars, as long as it's good ice.
Yeah.
And then you need, the 15 years old, that passed the test, but you would need good soda. Good soda.
Oh, soda, not water.
No, I do like soda, but I do like plain water as well. I find soda. My wife's making me do the soda, so I'm going to do it on the side. But I would rather plain water than soda, and that I don't know if that's a traditionalist point of view.
But then that's not a highball.
Then it's not really a highball. I know. Well, and this glass is not a highball.
Well, the thing about it, the classic, American drink probably through the sort of 60s, 70s was a Scotch and soda.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's nothing really. It's.
But and when you have it in the thin glass and the highball and thin glass, I find I don't smell the whiskey as much. And is that on purpose? Possibly, I think. This way you can still get the notes.
I think you make a good point. There are lots of different, philosophies about highballs. I need to go to Japan to really get it, but there's a few places around here that, have a highball on the menu. And some of them will use their own sodas.
Yeah.
one guy told me, said, look, if you're making a proper highball, you need good soda and the bubbles have to be bigger.
Okay. I need to know how to make bubbles bigger, Robin.
But you can buy if you go into some of those upscale grocery stores that maybe specialize in more of the sort of mixers and stuff, I'm sure there'll be some craft carbonated water brands that have nice mineral sort of water, a little bit more premium. There's one brand you get here called Topo Pico, and it's a Mexican club soda. I don't know if you've no. But yes, that's a good one.
Okay. Well, we will try that, and
you can maybe pitch that to all your fans in the West Coast.
Let's have that. The larger bubbled water with.
That's just what they say. I'm just.
I want to have a glass that's side by side where I could see actual larger bubbles, and maybe it's not that dramatic of a difference between one and the other. You know what? You have to trust people when they do this, because he's probably a very passionate person, and he's probably spent quite a bit of time doing this and experimenting one compared to the other. That would be my opinion. So, and let's put the regular glass, and there we go.
Yeah. You're in the right area. Well, now, you're now decanting it from
but I'll do the club soda. But I'm going to do half. Just
okay. All right. So what's that?
Schweppes club soda. So let me put some club soda. Maybe I'm
Schweppes,
still butchering.
Schweppes is a good brand.
I'm still butchering.
But now you're just topping it up now. You're not making, and the ice is already melted just about. Look at that.
You're going to get me drunk. My God.
You've got the ice sitting at the top.
The
ice needs to be evenly distributed throughout the glass from top to bottom.
I agree.
My wife agrees. So we're going to do it properly. And my bottle's going down. I gave away a lot of samples. I have some ready for some friends coming back from Mexico in a little while. So I've saved some, but this has gone down quite a bit this evening with you. And I've only been on with you for a half an hour. Oh, yeah.
Is it half an hour already? You need to kick me off soon.
No, we're good. So we're going to do this. And why not?
Okay.
And again, I'm doing 1/3, 2/3. 1/3.
Well, remember that. Okay, well, that's 50%. So maybe it's
I'm
a
okay
slightly
with that.
lower amount.
We're okay.
Okay, all right.
We're okay.
Saying,
Lift it up.
pour it slow. Pour it slow.
Slow and steady.
Because we don't want to disrupt the bubbles. We want the bubbles to be there. That's why we're pouring it slow.
And what you, with a little bit of lemon peel, just the peel, and then you twist it.
Okay.
Twist it.
And
of course, the zest will give you a little bit of that elevated
effervescence. Okay. Now, I can't smell this, but previously with the water, it was still quite fruity. But the orange went away a little bit and became more apple. And I don't know if it would have been apricot, but I would have said probably melon. I don't know. With more water, with the massive amount of water, it went to apple and melon to me. So
honeydew melon?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's usually what I think for melon. I don't know how many other melons we have. We don't have a lot. No, we're landlocked.
There's the red ones.
Honeydew, and there's the other
they're
one.
Green on the outside, they're red and white in the middle. The sort of black pips.
Yes.
Watermelons.
Not watermelon.
Well, that's the other melon that.
Yeah, it would be, but that's an off-putting scent for me. When I smell that with an alcohol, it doesn't go well. I don't like it.
Yeah.
This is lovely. Thank you very much. Although I think my wife's probably going upstairs and getting a lemon because she wanted to have one as well. So
she's so sweet. She's been making that in the background.
She did. She's doing very well. Oh, and so the lemon. So she did.
Well, that's perfect. Give her a round of applause. She's well done.
And I put the rind in. That's lovely. Well, thank you very much. This was fun. So we learned a little bit more, and we tasted a lot of whiskey, and hopefully people have the chance to get it and just basic information. 15 years old, 50% non-chill filtered, no color, available. I'm
First
believing
fill
throughout
ex
Canada.
bourbon.
First fill ex bourbon. Cost roughly $90 to $100 here in Canada, I'm guessing. $90 here in Alberta. When we go to other provinces, Ontario, Quebec, BC, they have tax. We don't have tax. So it goes up there a little bit. And yeah, I think that's it. I think we've covered the gambit. We did everything. If you see it, buy it. And
First edition.
okay, buy two. Yes. Buy one to keep because it's a first edition.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. And cheers to you and everyone out
Thank
there.
you
Hopefully
very
we
much.
see you again.
You and yours have a great Christmas, and same goes to all anyone who's watching this. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
holidays as well. So, and well, enjoy the time off, the festive season.
And enjoy 2022. It can only get better, I think.
Things, yes, I'm not going to sing it, but
okay,
yes, things should get better. We'll get better.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cilantro.
Slanch.
Lanja.